Hannah, your host, and today we're talking about something every filmmaker fears: disasters. That's right, those moments when everything goes wrong, but you're expected to make it look perfect anyway.
I'm feeling like a brand new me. For the very first time, I'm where I'm meant to be. Brand new.
Welcome to Outsmart the Hustle, where we turn hard work into smart work, helping you focus on the high-impact moves that drive your business forward without getting stuck in the grind. Today's podcast is a little different because I'm recording it live in a coffee shop for the Memoir Mastery Workshop in Washington, D.C. So let's kind of go around the room with the mic and say your name, where you're from, your business, and what you do. Annie, do you want to start?
Hi, I'm Annie Shannon. I am a wedding and elopement photographer in Dallas, and my business name is Annie Shannon Co.
Hi, I'm Carlos Gutierrez. I am a videographer in Dallas, and my business name is Afilmativo.
I'm Manuel. I'm a beginner filmmaker in this industry. I'm just starting and learning, and I'm also based in Dallas.
My name is Paulo D. Guzman. I'm from Katy, Texas, and I'm exploring the wedding videography business that I signed up for in this workshop. So yeah, I'm really excited to just learn as much as I can.
So before we dive into disaster prevention, how you can stay prepared, we're first going to play a game. It's one where you have to put a finger down, and I want all of us, even the listener, to play along. So is everyone ready? Put your fingers up. We're gonna have 10. So put a finger down if you've stayed up all night editing a project. Put a finger down if you had equipment fail on a shoot. Put a finger down if you've shot in the rain without rain gear. Annie.
That was this weekend.
I know.
I forgot it.
Put a finger down if you've had to shoot through a power outage. Put a finger down if you've been asked to do a last-minute project. Put a finger down if you filmed the entire event only to realize something important was out of focus. Put a finger down if you've lost footage due to a corrupted card. Put a finger down if you filmed a wedding without a timeline. Put a finger down if you've been asked, can you fix that in post, right? Put a finger down if the photographer or videographer has gotten in your shot. Carlos has no fingers left. I have one left. Everyone tell how many fingers they have left.
I have 4 left.
I have 0.
I have 7 left because I'm not very experienced.
And I have 1 left. And Annie?
Yeah, I have 1 left. I've not lost any footage.
Yeah, that was
or
mine too.
Photos.
I haven't lost anything yet, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm very cautious with my cards.
Yeah.
And I replace them.
Good.
I have lost stuff on school projects, so sadness and frustration.
In my case, I lost footage because my camera went dead without battery. So yeah, it's important
man.
to have battery whenever
Yeah,
you're
battery's
shooting.
good when you're shooting. Yes,
Keep
for
an
sure.
eye on your battery.
All right, so first I want to say that all these things, whether they have happened to me or not, have made me be a better filmmaker, whether it was learning from other people's experiences or my own. So today's podcast is about a necessary mind shift we all need to become better business owners. And when it's things that don't go as planned, look for the opportunities instead. Life will be full of learning opportunities, so let's get into these common mistakes filmmakers make, or photographers, and how we can learn to be more disaster preventative rather than reactive. So first, let's talk about one of the most common nightmares, gear failure. So imagine this, you're halfway through the filming ceremony, the bride is walking down the aisle, and suddenly your camera blacks out from heat exhaustion. This is why my number 1 rule is always bring backup gear. This means extra batteries, extra memory cards, and if possible, even an additional camera body. And trust me, this will save you when technology decides to turn against you. So Carlos, yesterday at the wedding, you were saying that the focus on the camera wasn't really working for you. Can you explain your mindset towards that, what you were saying earlier?
Yes. My camera yesterday was the manual ring of the focus was stuck for some reason, and that is influenced also on the autofocus. Whenever you turn the camera on, autofocus doesn't work till you on the running move the manual focus, or you physically move the ring, but the ring was stuck. So I had to discover this with the groom standing in front of me, and it was stressing. The whole wedding I was fighting with this because it's my main lens. My mentality during all this process was I had to take this out of my mind because it was very hard to have your main lens failing. So I had to look for other options, like change to the 85 in some occasions, so I could be easier for me to work on the manual focus situations, because there's some moments that out of focus, or at least in my camera, doesn't work properly, and important moments you need to have it in focus. So that was very present during the speeches, during the ceremony. At least on the ceremony, I had the other lens. I changed the lens for this, but on the speeches, I was fighting, like through the first 2 or 3 speeches. I was fighting with the lens because we want to deliver perfect, and 1 second out of focus is stress out us. So me looking at the monitor, knowing that I can't repair it because the ring is stuck, it was very stressful. But
Yeah,
I
I had
think,
no idea
yeah.
that the ring was stuck. So I think in the future, communicating that, hey, this is stuck, might need to have your 7200 focus on the speaker real quick. I think we did that towards the end, which was good, because it's like if you had an issue with the autofocus, then I switched over to the speaker, and then you switched onto the couple. And I think that was a really good problem solving moment, because then we were able to for sure get the speaker. But for the first half of it, the speaker was completely facing towards the couple, and so I'm really glad that you got over there, so that whatever is in focus, we can switch to that camera angle. But then I still have a wide, so you still have that, and then we have a shot of just the couple's reaction. So
Also, it was good when you move your 7200 for the speaker, because I moved to another whole place, and then I get a good shot with the speaker out of focus, the cake, and the couple. And when I get this last shot, I say like, well, I should have been here all the whole time. But yeah, it's problem solving. So the speaker turn the backs on us. I just run to grab him, but we solve.
and you know, you never know how people will position themselves during the speeches, and so you could put tape down, but for this one they decided to just turn their backs to us, and I was like, okay, great. So I'm glad that you got really close to the couple's table but far out of the shot, because we didn't see you at all, and that's the whole point. Like, we're supposed to remain hidden. We don't get on our own shots, right? So it worked out. The timing worked out. And you know, when it comes to the editing, that'll be something that I'll show you guys in the workshop how to do, to make sure that the edit looks seamless and it looks like nothing went wrong, right? So
I mean, I ended up, my flash wasn't communicating, and so I had to use an adapter and put my flash on top of it, so I had the backup gear to be able to connect to the gear that I needed to connect, and so always having a backup plan as well.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, backup plans are great. All right, so another disaster to avoid is data corruption. Wedding days can be hectic, and it's easy to overlook the little things. So I always recommended shooting on dual SD cards. So if you have a camera that doesn't have that, I would say consider like swapping out the SD cards after every major moment, so that you at least have something and you don't lose everything, right? Just in case the card gets corrupted. I'd say format those cards before you start, because if they're formatted to the camera body, like let's say, because Carlos, you use Lumix, right? So let's say I formatted the card on my Sony, it's going to have all that data from my Sony data, and you need Lumix data, right? So if you format it before you use it, you have more chance of keeping the footage on the SD card than if you weren't to format it. Just a little rule of thumb. But now everyone on the bench in front of me has lost data. Tell me why that happened, and tell me what you did to solve the problem.
Well, in my case, happened because I run out of battery, and like in my well, not all cameras, but some cameras, when you run out of battery and you were shooting at this moment, depending on how much energy the battery left, you could lose this last clip. And it happened for me like 3 times or 2, and it's always in ceremonies. So when you lose the clip, you lose the ceremony clip. So we had to go to a company that you send the SD to them, and they recover all that, and they charge you like $100 per clip. So yeah, it's important to have battery always before you start the ceremony.
Yes, I always change out my batteries before the ceremony because it needs to be above at least 75% for me to feel comfortable for it to last a whole hour.
Yeah.
So I always make sure I know, like, between my cameras, like, it's different for each camera, right? Like,
Yeah.
my FX3 is going to burn through batteries way faster than my Sony A7S3s. So make sure I have like an extra battery on me so that if I need to switch it out in my camera right in front of me, then I can have that.
Other thing that I apply because of that is I create a battery rotation on my equipment. I buy batteries yearly. Like my 2023 batteries, I don't use them because they start draining faster and they start failing. So having new batteries is key. Like every year or every 2 year, buying four new batteries or so, whatever amount of batteries you use, like get them all new and put a label or write the date under the battery so you could rotate every year.
The times I've lost data, it's just been because of the silly mistake of not formatting the card before, and then I realized that like nothing really like recorded, and thankfully it wasn't like very important because it was just like part of the learning process of being in college, and these things happen. It's not like a wedding day, oh my gosh, I lost like important stuff that I am being paid for and that couples expect and that it's important to have. So there was a solution like that. There's also something that I just thought about that has happened to friends, and is that always have backups. Like you always talk about backups, but I have friends that have lost projects that are already on their hard drives because the hard drive fails.
I've
And
had that happen, but I
Yeah.
have the photos on it, like
Yeah.
on SD cards,
Oh my
all the
goodness.
time.
Yeah. So I don't delete what's on the SD until the project has been delivered to the client. And I also have the backup on the hard drive and I back up to the cloud. So I have 3 different places for it to be.
Yeah, I keep it on both the CF and the SD, and then I have 2 hard drives. And when I'm traveling, I have them in multiple bags. And so if
Just
one,
in case you lose a bag.
in case you lose a bag, so I always
Yeah.
have a backup on me.
Right. So for my dual SD card situation, like right now in my checked bag, I've got nothing in there because it's being checked. In case I don't get that bag back ever again, I have the footage, right? I also have the spare SD card in my backpack, and I have the hard drive case that can be on me as a person. So it's just like if anything would happen in my backpack, for example, I have the case, right? So it's like you just have to make sure you have the footage on you and don't just put everything, like all eggs in one basket. So
I also keep a Apple Apple
Air
AirTag
tags,
on my
yes.
SD cards.
yeah.
Like on the cases, I keep an AirTag on it.
Yeah.
And it's great on wedding days if I'm in my car and I'm like, oh crap, did I forget my
SD
SD cards? And then I like look
Yeah.
at my thing and I'm like, oh, it's in my car.
Yeah. So let's talk about weather. You can't always control it, but you can be prepared. For example, 89's flights here originally were going through Atlanta,
Yep.
but there was a huge hurricane, and I think it's still there right now, just a few days ago that blew into Atlanta. And if we had landed in Atlanta at the time that we did, our flight would be grounded and canceled for days. We would have not been
Yeah.
here probably till today.
Yeah.
So, so if you need to be watching the weather prior to your flights.
Like even in your layover like locations.
Yes, like just look at what's happening. So my husband actually was in a conference in Atlanta for his work this week, and he got out just before the hurricane blew in with 80-mile-per-hour winds. He left at 8 a.m. that morning, but we were going to arrive later than that. So it would have been really bad. But he was like, hey, there is a hurricane blowing in, and I don't know if I'm going to get to come home. And I was like, oh my gosh, let's look into that. So we got our flights moved to a different layover so that we can make it to D.C. on
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
we barely made our flight because of that. We had like a 5-minute, 2-minute difference. They were boarding the last people. We had flight delays.
We had a flight delay.
Yeah, we did have flight delays.
We tend to only book
One way.
No, it's called direct.
Direct flights, yes.
Direct flights.
We love booking direct flights, but okay, if we could redo this, we would not have the bride book our travel. She really just wanted her points used so she could purchase it for free, but I was like, you know what, that's fine, go ahead. But then what we realized is that when the bride booked our travel,
She booked us with a layover and, we
and
had
a
to
red
get
eye
up,
flight,
we had to get up at 2 a.m. Well, we had to leave her house at 2 a.m.
yes. And, that's pretty early, considering that we don't normally do shoots on the same day that we travel, but because the bride hadn't booked the location shoot, it got booked on the day we wanted to do it on Friday. We wanted to do all the shoots on Friday. And she's like, oh, this didn't get booked in time and now it's booked, so we're going to have to do it on Thursday. So we ended up flying in tired, and we did a shoot that evening. And I was like, okay, I like that we got this shoot, but I am exhausted. So I would recommend when you're flying in on travel day, never do any shoots on travel day because it's just too much on your body.
Yeah.
Especially with a crazy layover like what we had. So
Red eye.
red eye, and we're just tired and exhausted. But yeah, all that, we're going back to weather and what we're supposed to do there. But yeah, you just don't want to rack up hotel fees and stuff for like extensions and all that.
Yeah.
So just always check the forecast before the wedding day. Pack any gear for all conditions, like camera rain covers, extra lighting, even umbrellas for yourself, or raincoats. Like I've filmed in rainstorms, I've filmed in scorching heat, but just have the right protection made for all different types of situations. Like this weekend, it was raining all the time. And so I brought a couple of rain covers with me to cover the cameras, which was really helpful, especially on Friday, because that whole morning Manuel was filming BTS for us, and he had his rain cover on, I had my rain cover on, and it really helped protect our cameras and still helped us get the stuff.
I read once in a book that says like everything you prepare will fail, and everything that you don't prepare will definitely fail too. So you need to have plan from A to C, and probably C will fail too.
Yes, foresight is so good when shooting events because they're so, I mean, like you think people are normal until they're throwing a party. Whenever people want to throw parties, they're crazy. Like they're like trying to let loose and just have fun, right? So like when you're in the event industry, you don't get normal anymore. Let's talk about some unpredictable moments, like last minute schedule changes, or like bride's mom asking for a special shot, or like at the worst possible time. So my advice is just to stay flexible, have a shot list, but be ready to pivot. Literally yesterday's wedding was just pivoting.
Like bridesmaids were still getting ready, and so what we did was
Like after 3 hours.
Yes, and
They had 3 hours.
we moved some things. So we had the bride record her vows, her letter reading. We moved the groom's first look with the groomsmen in the bride's wedding dress, other wedding dress. We moved things around so that we didn't miss anything and we didn't delay the timeline because we were just sitting around waiting like sitting ducks.
Yeah, I mean, when we arrived, the planner was like, so the elevator's broken and we're already like hours behind because the rental people can't get upstairs. I was like, oh, lovely, love that. So we usually always communicate with the planner or coordinator to stay in sync with the timeline, but she said the timeline's off. Everything's just gonna have to pivot today. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, this is not the best vibe, but all right. So just communicate with the planner normally. Normally they are planning. But when weddings are live events, we just have to remember things will change. But if you're adaptable, you'll be able to handle it like a pro. I also think this is why weddings aren't for everybody, because if you're a stick in the mud and you can't adapt quickly, weddings would give you a heart attack. So the craziest hodgepodge of people coming together for the first time in ages, and you get to be a fly on the wall to see all the drama go down, right? It's fantastic where it's not just depending who you are. So it's like weddings may or may not be for you, but I personally like it because I love just observing and people watching, and it's kind of like the best job ever because I get to literally record it. I'm getting paid to record all of that.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love just like documenting the generational things that are happening and the interactions. Like they had people from what country? Lithuania?
Yeah.
That flew in for their wedding.
A fun note about these people from Lithuania, I listened to them talking to the groom, asking about us. Like they would say like, who's this media team? Like, where you get this media team? Because they were very friendly. He was doing like a good review of us. Like I was wrapping one of your flashes, and they were talking by me, but I was like just listening, and he was saying like, one of you guys stopped them like, yo, you look beautiful, let me take a picture of you guys, and and so yeah, we mark them.
Yes.
So we have some people in Lithuania that
I'm
love
in
us now.
Lithuania that love us.
I
Yay,
had-
thank you.
I had people throughout the night come
Tell-
up to
yes.
me and say, your team is amazing.
Mhm.
Like, what is your information? Or I'll get your information from your
Yeah.
bride.
Yeah.
So if you
That's
have a
pretty good.
professional presence and you're able to pivot throughout the
Yes.
wedding day,
Mhm.
then you make an impact on the bridesmaids,
Yes.
the wedding guests,
Yes.
the couple,
Yes.
and you're gonna get raving reviews from everyone there.
Yeah. So, like, even if things feel like they're a disaster and nothing's going right, just have a smile on your face. Just know it's gonna end at some point. And I say that, but it doesn't sound bad, right? But it'll be fine. You just do your job, document what's happening. Things don't go perfectly, whatever perfectly means. You know, it's just it is what it is, and you document it. That's your job. So I would just also like to plug in the fact that if you're a legit business, you should be getting general liability insurance. It's not that scary, but once you're an LLC, consider getting it right away. It's like only $50 a month, guys. Like the most venues require it nowadays anyway, at least the good ones. So
Yeah.
whether it's gear insurance or like general liability insurance, at least just have something so you're covered and protected in case the worst thing happens. So it's a small cost compared to the nightmare of replacing equipment or handling a client lawsuit. Like for example, the DJ had a laser on his lighting system last night. And so like, what if that laser hits your camera sensor and now you have to replace a $5,000 camera body? Not fun. But if you have, you know, your general liability, you have your gear insurance, you could get that replaced. So just remember, be prepared. Don't think you're above insurance, like nothing could ever bad happen to you. That's false. Something bad will happen to you and you need to prepare for it. So I once had a lady who literally paid me $250 for quote unquote branding photos and tried to sue me over not getting her raw pictures.
Yep.
Really, it was a horrible experience. I was trying to do her a favor because she was famous, and a friend who was a business coach at the time was like, oh, you should do this. She like did a commercial or whatever. And I was like, okay. I did it, and she wanted it for her book cover, but only wanted the raws. But she wanted the raws as JPEGs. And I'm like, that's not how that works. So I was trying to explain that to her. And she said during the photo shoot, she had never done a photo shoot in 3 years. 3 years, which means you don't know what you're talking about, ma'am. But she was trying to sue me for over raw photos that weren't actually raw 'cause she wanted them in JPEG and she wanted to edit them herself.
So have a contract that talks
Yes.
about raws.
Yes.
Make
Like-
sure that all your contracts are
Have a
solid.
contract. Yes. Talk to the people before you work with them. Just,
Yeah.
you know, client experience matters. That was probably the worst experience I've ever had with a client. I've had considerably bad experiences that I've learned from as a beginner, but that one, ooh, man, did I lose a few hairs. I think that's how I got my first white hair, quite honestly. So I said, it's not worth getting sued. It's not worth my mental health. Here are your raw, quote unquote, photos. Here are the JPEGs. Here you go. I just gave it to her and I said, bye, have a great life. I was like, it's not worth it. It's not worth my time. It's not worth protecting my ego or my pride. Let me just get rid of this and never talk to her again.
And even though it looks flat because it's a raw turned
Yeah.
into a JPEG, it's fine.
But her own ego she didn't use the photos.
Oh.
Yep. So I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, it's fine. I could care less. So anyway, to sum it up, back up your gear, back up your data, prepare for the weather, stay flexible, and protect yourself with insurance
And contracts.
and contracts. So, do we have any questions from the audience today?
So have you ever been in a situation where you weren't able to show up? And how did you deal with the client?
So,
due to that? Because you said you mentioned about the layover or the flight, and there was a really
Right,
close
correct.
chance.
So I have Carlos coming as well on a separate plane, and he had a one-way ticket. So if I didn't get to show up on time, Carlos would have then been the lead, and I would have found a second shooter here locally in DC for Carlos. I've worked with Carlos before, and he would have been the lead for the wedding with one camera, but he would have figured it out, right? I would have had the second shooter bring a few more cameras. That's kind of what would have happened. So,
Yeah.
but luckily that didn't happen. Now, we shot 2 weddings yesterday as Modern Memoir. I had a team in Dallas shooting a wedding for me while we were shooting a wedding in DC.
Yeah.
And that second wedding booked us 3 months ago. very last minute, but I was like, hey, I'm already going to be in DC, but would you like to book my very talented team instead? So we shot 2 weddings yesterday.
Yeah.
And Jose was leading that one, and he shot the rehearsal dinner on Friday, and he shot the wedding on Saturday with Ramsey. So it was really cool that we got to do that. So I have a team of people in my network that like Carlos is one of them, that I really trust, who provide quality work that I can send and shoot. It's best that you're not the only one in your business. It's a team effort, and you need people that you can trust to do it.
Yeah.
So even in the editing, I have people helping me so I can meet deadlines. You know, it's like if you have it all and you're a one-man show, you will be stuck in your business and you will have no time for anything else.
Yeah. So when I had COVID, and this is when like it was lockdowns and such. And so I tested positive the day I was supposed to fly out.
Oh.
And I had a person on call, and I flew her out.
That's good.
I flew her out from Kansas to Colorado to shoot this wedding.
Good job.
Because I trusted her, and I looked at her portfolio, and I knew her. And it really worked out because she was able to give some encouragement to the groom in the moment that he needed it. Because I knew her character, and she'd be able to handle certain random situations like that.
Yeah.
And so having people who are even on call, like saying like, hey, do you have a wedding this day? I don't necessarily need you, but I need to know I can count on you for a backup if there's something going on. That way you're not scrambling to find someone on your list.
Right.
Like Hannah, when she would do photography, she'd just reach out to people and be like, hey, are you available this day? Can you put it as a pencil?
Just in case. Yeah,
because,
I have just in case contractors for every wedding. So that's good to just think through, is like, who are going to be your people that you can depend on just in case something were to happen. So the other example I was going to say is that I was shooting a wedding last December. My grandmother passed away in late November, and the funeral was going to be during that wedding. And I asked my family, I was like, hey, I got this wedding. Could we possibly move the funeral date at all? Like, you guys haven't scheduled anything with the house. Like, can we do anything about this? And I just wasn't sure. And so I had to call that bride. And I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening right now with my family. My grandmother just passed away. But I really want to be there for your wedding. I was literally like, I was crying on the phone. And actually thinking about it right now is like tough. But I don't want to cry on the podcast. Dang it. But you know, situations like that could come up, and you have to, again, be prepared. So I had the call with the bride. She was very understanding, and she was like, you know, I trust you, whatever. And I had, you know, developed a relationship with her. Again, you have to build client relationships. I had done an engagement session with her. I saw her at business networking events. Like, I saw her pretty regularly, and she knew I was reliable. She's seen my work and everything. And so she was like, I trust you that you're going to find someone to help cover my wedding if you can't be there. But I totally understand. And that was her. And she was so thankful that I told her. And like, you can't just keep your clients out of that sometimes. You need to let them be there with you. Like, I have a wedding this November, and the photographer's mother passed away and couldn't make it to the engagement shoot I did with the couple. And so I'm like checking in with the couple because I haven't formally met this photographer yet. And I'm like, hey, how's your photographer doing? Is he okay now? Like, have you guys done your engagement shoot yet? Should I help you with your engagement shoot? And so like, I'm checking in with that because like, we gotta look out for each other. Emergencies can happen, and it's like, what do, you know? Luckily, my family moved the funeral date to the week before, so I didn't have to worry about, you know, missing that wedding. But I had to just be prepared. Like, I'm gonna see grandparents at this wedding, and you know, still gotta show up. So, dang. But yeah, hard things can happen. Like, I've had second shooters going through divorces and still showing up to weddings, and they see the first dance and they just start bawling. And I'm like, hey, go in the corner, go into the bridal suite and just cry it out. It's okay. I'll give you a hug later after this is over when the open dancing starts.
Yeah. And let your team know what's going on.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That way, like, if you do need to step out, you can step out.
Yep. So, dang, that was vulnerable for a for a podcast, but good because we got to talk about stuff like that. So, any other questions?
What is one takeaway from this conversation
Takeaways.
that you will take and use next wedding? Go.
That's good.
Okay, Carlos first.
Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes, exactly. Always check on your team. Always be in communication with your team. Teamwork. At the end, like it's teamwork. As you were saying, like we have each other's back, and even though we are shooting sometimes solo flying on moments, like on this wedding, you were shooting like the only videographer Friday, Thursday, but we all have each other's back. And I know you might, I don't know, if something happens to you, you might have people here, and you have me here. And same is if it happened in Dallas, then you have Ramsey or you have Jose, and we are not all the time together. Like I let's say I'm in Dallas, and you have some situation, and probably you call me like, I need you to get here now. You know I'm gonna be there, and it's that having each other's back. I think this is the most important thing that you say, like, and the whole thing, like having each other's back, because we all have situations. We have situations as the situations you described, that it's a human thing, and we need to take care of all of us, like each other. But also we have to, like in the wedding business, we have to have in mind that it's not about us. It's their special day. So we need to make their day more special than it is, because what we do is like we are the time machine. Like our work is
Stuck in time.
probably one
Yeah.
of the only things that couple will have in the future. Like probably will have one or two souvenirs and stuff like that. They have the dress, but what we have like their interactions with the grandma that passed. We have the interaction that with the father that maybe are separate, and we have them together on this day. Like all these interactions, all these emotions that they have this day is what we capture. And in my case, as a second shooter, because I have been second shooter my entire career, so I see my perspective different from the lead shooter. I think the lead shooter, it's leading, it's more present, but I consider myself like a sniper, so I'm capturing these emotions, these moments. So that's why I all the time try to have like a long lens and stuff, because for me it's very important that they have these candid moments where they don't even know that we are capturing these moments, and it's their day. So at the end, when they see it 1 year, 5 years, 10 years after, and see our work, that's what's important. That's why we work for, and we need to have this in mind. Like we work for them to see them in 10 years, and then to see this rebel kid that is not in the family anymore, or they need to see all this family together this day, and it's the time machine for me. It's the
really
time
cool.
machine.
Yes, and like they don't really know what's gonna happen to the people that is there after the wedding day. Like I've had brides tell me, "Hey, like my grandparents passed after the wedding, and I'm so glad that you captured them." It was like the one time they were on video. That's insane, and that's just like amazing work that we get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had people who's like said like their friend passed away in a car accident. And it's like then they're in the video, like they got a photo with them, and it's like you just don't know what could happen, and like you get to be that person to capture that for that couple. It's like more than just a wedding.
Yeah.
It is a reunion. It is a good family time. It's happy memories, man. Like you get to be a part of that, and it's just so cool. We feel really blessed to do the work that we do for couples.
And what's so special is when those loved ones are gone, that's where they're looking. They're looking at their wedding.
Yeah, they're looking at the wedding.
They're looking at their wedding first because it's the most accessible, especially if you make it accessible to them to be able to access it. Like looking at their wedding venue through YouTube or whatever platform you're using. and then the photos, like providing an album or a hard drive or flash drive with it. That way they're always able to look back on it, and it's like the most accessible, because a lot of them, they're on other people's phones.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've even had a couple tell me over the phone that they rewatched their wedding video like after a couple of years when their marriage was getting hard, and just were reminded of why they loved each other and saw those vows again, and it just really helped them through a tough patch. And I'm like, dang, man, like this is beautiful. Like we get to do that for them. And you know, if you just have a cookie cutter wedding film and there's no words or there's no emotion really in it, you're just showing it, it's like, how are you going to get that result with something like that? You can't. So it's just like you get to be that for that person. If you want to develop that type of quality. Now you don't always have to. You could make it more of like a business, but it's like at the end of the day it's still a business, but can you put purpose in it?
I had a couple find out that I had blogged their wedding 2 years later after I had blogged it, and they like went back on it on their anniversary. And they said they're going to make it a tradition to look back at the blog every year because it reminds them of the commitment that they made.
That's sweet. Yeah, our couples watch their wedding video on their anniversary every year. Which is cool.
Do you have a thing that sends it to the link to them every year?
We have like the subscription email reminder stuff so that they get like happy anniversary, and like, you know, we keep that in a cycle.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just for the first anniversary. Otherwise it would be a lot, but yeah, so okay, well, cool. That was good. Do you guys have any takeaways?
I don't know. I think communication is key. I'm like learning, just seeing all of you work, and how like you just like put the microphone down in like very specific moments. It's like 2-3 words, and then it goes up, and then like Carlos is running, and then he's like, I'm like, okay, I don't know what she said in this like moment of chaos, but I know that she said something that now Carlos is gonna work on, and then she can trust him to do it well. And same thing with Annie. And so like it's great, right? Like, and just something I like also learned yesterday, like I was trying to think about customer service and how to like make the like people at the wedding like feel better. And so sometimes people would be like, can you take a picture of me? And I'm like taking behind the scenes, but Annie's a photographer, and so I'd be like, Annie, can you take a picture of them? Or like stuff like that.
Yeah. As a videographer, you're always going to ask, can you take our photo?
Yeah. And
fine.
So I hope I did a good job, because I was like a little,
you did a great
like,
job.
Ooh, like looking everywhere, but yeah.
You need a name tag that says video.
Oh, yeah. Here, Paulo.
I remember I overheard a conversation between you and the bride, and why she chose you, and it's because of branding and originality. She was talking about how there were, a couple shooters that you could have chosen from DC, but like you mentioned before, they were like cookie cutters, like all their videos looked the same, and she wanted her video to look original. And I remember you like explicitly talking about how you were able to like book this destination wedding based on the fact that you were able to show that you weren't just going to create like another cookie cutter film for her. And I just found that like really admirable.
All right, so this was a really great podcast episode about disaster preparedness and just being prepared as a business owner, as a person, and just being there for each other when things go wrong, or even when they don't. Just like, being there as a buddy, when life happens. So I really enjoyed this podcast episode. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Outsmart the Hustle is produced by Memoir Mastery, a film business course, hosted by Hannah McGinty and edited by Manuel Mesa. Follow us at Memoir Mastery literally anywhere for more creative business tips.